Evocative Media, the real voice of Faversham.
My name is Ann Jemmett, and before I was married it was Ann Little. I was born the 16th of March 1938 in the Faversham Cottage Hospital.
And where did you live?
And we lived at number 17 Priory Place.
What was it like living there, Gillett?
It was very nice, everybody was very friendly. Yeah, we got on with the neighbours. They were all like family, If Mum wasn't in, you always went round to the neighbours. And I was the seventh of 9 children, and we lived in that 3-bedroom house for us all. But, it was what I can remember. We all got on very well. I can't remember my eldest sister not living in the house. Obviously, they'd left and gone into service by the time I was born. But all the rest of us lived there in that 3-bedroom house. I know 3 of us used to sleep in a bed together, but I don't know where the others were. They must have been up in the other room.
Right.
But it wasn't a big house. It was only a kitchen and a lounge, and then the bedrooms. The bathroom, there was a bath in the kitchen with a top on it that you had a bath once a week, which you filled with water from the a kettle, a copper in the corner of the room, and that. But it was happy times, It was everybody was all friendly. We had the same neighbours all the while from when I can remember being little till we was all grown up, all of them. And the neighbours next door, Mrs. Gillett, and then Mrs. Turner was the other side. They shared there was an alleyway at the back of all the houses, and they was in twos, so you had a big yard that 2 shared. And the older girls used to put on concerts, so I can remember them quite vividly. Between the rainwater butts, and us kids used to sit on benches and watch these concerts they put on. Yeah, it was really, really quite happy times,
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when they built North Preston Estate, what was I? 11, 12 when they started to build that. We got a house across the road in 7 Acre Road, a 4-bedroom house. Of course, we moved over there. Well, then the old neighbours, you didn't have your old neighbours anymore, Several of them moved out into bigger council houses. But we lived there until I got married. We lived up there. Mr. Butcher, the policeman, he lived a bit further along in the big white house. He used to have a chow dog called Chan. And we used to walk by the fence with our fingers. But as soon as you got to the gate, you was quick to take him back because he used to jump back your fingers at the gate. But And then there was the playing field, which is not like it is now. It was just up and dips because it belonged to Mr. Kendall, who lived in the farmhouse round opposite the church. All that ground, and they used to play out there, and the boys. And
So, what was it like opposite Priory Place?
all fields, all cornfields, before they built North Preston, and then down opposite the cornfields, and there was a path that went across the cornfield down into the Brents that way, or you walked down another path just near the houses that went down to what was the old brickfields. That was all old brickfields, and there was a path there that went through to the Brents, and along the Brents there was some old houses, a row of old houses that you went along in the path, little bungalow places they were, and then you went into the Brents. But other than that, there was nothing there. And then obviously this way you got Priory and Davington Manor. This was all belonged to Davington Manor and the cricket ground and everything. This was just a track up here to that.
So
Yeah.
what was it next to the school?
That was an orchard. There was a cherry orchard there, and that belonged to Mr. Kendall. That was the back of his house. We used to go scrumping in there. And the school, yeah, Yeah, they went to Daventry School.
What? There's 9 children.
Yeah.
What was the age difference?
My eldest sister, when I was born, was 19, and then I was born. So there was 2 girls, 2 years between them. Then they had 2 boys, 2 years between. So in 4 years there was, like 2 years between them 4, and then they had my other brother, another boy, another 2 years. Then my sister, another 2 years. Yeah, 2 years between the first 6, and then they went 6 years between my other brother and me, and then there was 2 years between the last 2. So it was sort of every 2 years, Mum and Dad had a child.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And did you all go to Daventry School?
Yes, all of us.
And how did you like it there?
Oh, all right. Yeah, I can, remember Mr. Masters being the headmaster, and I remember a Mr. Crittenden, and a Miss Parfitt, and a Miss Woodcock. She was a school teacher there. And actually, she was my godmother. Miss Woodcock. Yeah. She used to be frightened the life out of her. She frightened the life out of us because she had big bulgy eyes. I think all the children was frightened of Miss Woodcock, but she was very nice, Yeah. But, the school days, I remember them quite happy school days. I remember the air raid shelters used to be in the playground. I say I was at that school until I was 11. Yeah, 11. Yeah.
So with all these fields and the farm and it,
Yeah.
so that would be your playground.
That was
as
our
well?
playground, and Ham Road was our playground. We used to go down there a lot, play in the old gunpowder buildings, and there was tunnels down there. We used to get in. Never used to quite get right to the end because we used to be a bit frightened. But we used to go in them, in the tunnels.
So they were long tunnels.
They were long tunnels, yeah, but some of them were blocked. But, we used to go in as far as what we dare. But we used to play down there. That was our playground. Play down there a lot, all day. There was streams down there where they used to use the water for the gunpowder, and big walls, big glass walls. You could climb up the side because it was like a bank up the side of it, and then there were these big drops down the inside where they used to store all the gunpowder and stuff. But
weren't you frightened going up there?
No.
We
used to play cowboys and Indians. And of course, having older brothers, the brothers were nearer to me than what the sister was. You was always out with the boys, So it was quite fun. But as I say, I can never remember. Nobody ever got hurt, and we used to have always out, never indoors. We used to go home when we was hungry. Nobody worried where we were, not in them days. To go home when we was hungry, but never indoors. One reason why you were never indoors because the houses weren't very big. Because I remember during the war we had I was 6 when the war ended, but we had one of those big metal tables in the house, like a shelter, weren't they? And they had metal, not railings, but they hung like curtains down each side. So if it was bombed, it kept the debris away. It hit these mesh things instead of coming under there. And we used to sleep underneath there. Times I hit my head on it. I can remember that quite well. But that was in the room for long after the war ended. I can remember that being in there. So there was never any room indoors to sit about, And there was no television, was there? We used to play games or read. Used to read a lot.
Yeah.
And we used to have to be in bed by 7 o'clock anyhow, all of us. So it was out all day, all weathers. Used to play hockey out in the road and all the hopscotch and ride the bikes. And that was another thing with the bike, being a big family. The first one who got the bike had it. Otherwise, if you didn't. So the first one up, whatever bike it was, boys or girls, the first one up got it.
Well, you kept it all day. Or...
Yeah, or if you was lucky,
Yeah.
you put it down somewhere, someone else come and took it. But everything was shared. There was no, well, not like nowadays where they've got everything, haven't they? Best things, the bikes. These were bikes that were made up, and footballs, and no dolls. I can't remember ever having a dolly.
Because of your brothers.
Yeah, most probably because of my brothers. Yeah.
Yeah.
But everything we shared. You shared everything. You played games, played board games, and snakes and ladders, and Ludo, and things like that. Word games, seventies with cards, but yeah.
So, did you ever venture into town or?
Very
Like-
rare when I was young. Mum used to take. Sometimes I used to go shopping with her up to the co-op, up the top of Press Street. It was all the co-op, wasn't it? All the town was the co-op, and I used to go shopping with her sometimes. But very rare did we ever venture in the town. I don't think I ever went to the Rec, only if I was taken by parents or something, until I was at secondary school. Never ventured down, there. This was our play area up here.
So,
Yeah.
were there any shops along Priory Place?
There was some shops in Long Priory Row, the 40 Thieves as we used to call them. There was 2 shops there. There was Mrs. Bones's, and I don't know what the man's name was at the top, because we used to go to Mrs. Bones more than anybody. She was sort of down the middle of the street, and he had the shop on the corner, which is still there now. But it was always in Mrs. Bones's, and the shop was in their front room. They lived at the back and in the house, and the shop was in the front room. We used to go and get our ration of sweets there, our coupons, spend a month's coupons in one day on penny sweets, and
Yeah.
gobstoppers and sherbet dabs and things like that, There was only Priory Place and Priory Row, were, as I said, they were called the 40 Thieves. That's all there were there, all the houses that was up there. And there was a few houses sort of like where PC Butcher used to live. There was, they used to call them like host houses, but they weren't. They were just a few sort of at the back of the gardens. I think there was about 3. Well, they're still there now.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and that's all there's there. I know that at the back of the 40 Thieves there's a long alleyway all the way along the back of the houses, because we used to run up and down there as kids. Yeah.
Not playing knockouts into nothing.
Well, we used to. The houses on the alleyway, the 2 houses on the alleyway, their door knockers were near the walls. We used to tie a bit of string on the one and pull it and hide down behind the wall so it knocked the door, But that was all the mischief. We never got up to any other mischief.
No.
And they all knew us anyhow. As soon as they see us, wait till I tell your dad.
What's your mum and dad's names?
Nora and Fred Liddle.
Were they both from
Yeah.
Faversham?
My dad originated from Rochester. He worked in the shipyard. He was a shipbuilder's blacksmith. And my mum was born up St Mary's Road, number 48.
Oh, so your dad worked in the...
He worked in the shipyard. All my brothers worked in the shipyard, all of them. They all did the apprenticeship in the shipyard.
Is this when it was Pollock's?
Yeah, he worked there, or before, when he came to Faversham. Before I was born, he worked there all through the war, and that he was there. Yeah.
So, and when they got married, they moved into Priory Place.
No.
Did they?
When they were first married, I think they lived in Rochester for a little while, and then they moved into the cottages at the bottom of Davington Hill, and they never moved up to Priory Place until they had the brother next to me, Peter. So they had 6 children when they lived down the bottom in Davington, in there, and then they moved up to Priory Place because that obviously it was a council house again, so they got a council house.
Secondary school did you go to?
Ethbrook Road. It was Ethbrook Road then, and there was boys one side and girls the other. And then we used to go up to what is now Lady Capel, or Abbey School. We used to go up there to the mobile classrooms for cookery and needlework and things like that.
So you had one lot like that, one lot like that.
Yeah.
So then they put a link block in, didn't they?
Yeah, and
What, when I was there.
yeah, well, as I say, we were, if you went, well, not now, but if you went up Etterbuck Road, the girls were sort of in the right side of the school and the boys were in the left half of the school. But the only time you see them was playtimes. And you didn't play with them. It's just that you see them across the little wall. There used to be a little wall between, and that's the only time. And then when we used to go up to what was the Abbey School now, the boys, they had classrooms up there. They used to do metalwork and woodwork in these mobile classrooms, and they used to we used to see them then. We used to have to walk up to the school, but we had cookery and domestic science they used to call it. It wasn't just cookery. You learnt to iron and wash and clean, and don't do that now, do they?
No.
But we learnt all that, and cooking.
Oh,
And then I was there till I was 15. And then I went to work down at Gillett's. Gillett's down Standard Quay, the agriculture merchants.
yeah.
I went in the office down there when I was 15. And I worked on and off there for 40 odd years, till I was 60. On and off. I worked there for the first 15. I got married when I was 22. Yeah. First child when I was 28. So I worked there from 15 till I was 28. And then after that, I got the daughters, the girls. I used to go fruit picking and hop training for berries out at Brenley and selling. And then when the youngest daughter was about 6, I went back down to Gillett's to work till I retired, till I was 60.
That must have been about the time it was closing as well, was it?
Yes, while I was there, when I first went, it was just Gillett's, and Mr. Harris used to own it. He worked in the office. And then Den's of White, T. Den and Sons, took it over, and they still carried on as Gillett's, but they took it over, and then Den's packed up, and Mr. Cook, Len Cook, that was our boss in the office, him and his wife took it over. They took over the Standard Quay part, which used to be a shop and a garden centre, and they took that over and run that as Gillett Cook. So and I worked for them.
So what were they like to work for?
They were very good. When I first started, I earned £2 a week. That when I first went, which was quite good money then all them years ago. And I used to have to give my mum £1, and I had £1. And then Den's took over when I'd been down there about 3 years. My wage went up to £5 a week. I was quite happy down there. It was a happy place to work. No, it was quite nice. We used to see all the boats being launched over the shipyard, because it was right opposite. Watch all the people standing right on the edge when they were launched, getting soaked. Boat hit the water, and then all the water come up there, our side. Used to stand and watch them all get wet through, not say a word.
What did Gillett's actually do?
They were agricultural, farmers, agriculture work. They made animal foods. Used to have boats up there that they used to load the grain on. It used to go out. They used to sell it to the millers. Some of the grain used to go abroad. I think there was a Dutch one that used to come up sometimes.
Was the trains there then?
Where we were in Standard Quay, the rail tracks were there. We used to have a crane tracks that they used to unload and load the boats with sometimes. Very old thing it was. And that was down there for a long time.
When you say about the launching at Pollock's, with you having family working in there, you must have been given the heads up and
Oh
such.
yeah, we knew, before anybody else did when they were going to be launched, Used to draw a lot of people down, the sideways launches. The year before I went down there, before I went to work, when they had the big flood, 53, and that you could see a mark in the office wall where the water was right up. And I remember going in the office and the line was taller than what I was. And I was never very tall, but the line of the floodwater was taller than me. Because I remember you couldn't get off of where we lived. You couldn't walk down to the Brents into the town because the floodwater was right at the bottom of the hill, which is what is now Bramble Hill. The floodwater was right there, and you couldn't get round this way because the pond had overflowed, so it was all across the road down here. The only way you could have got out if you wanted to get into the town was right the way round Bisey Wood.
Gillett's and going out, with the break when you had children and out the fields.
Yeah.
That was the only work you done then.
That was all. Yeah.
So basically, you had one employer.
Yeah. Which was, well, it was Den's. It was Mr. Harris to start with, and then Den's took it over, and then Cook came to the office to be manager, and I worked for him all the time.
Yeah.
He worked down there about 40 odd years.
Going back to yourself, like when you left school, what did you do for fun?
Oh, we used to go to the youth centre up South Road. It was always up there, and we used to go to dances in the lecture hall or the institute, whatever we used to call it, the lecture hall. That's all, I suppose.
Yeah.
The youth centre. We was at the youth centre ever such a lot. So I met my husband at the youth centre, and then he came to work down where I worked before he did his national service.
And what was your husband's name?
David Jemmett.
So when you met him at the youth club?
Yeah, and I was about 17.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you get him the job down Gillett then?
No, his dad worked down there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he got a job down there for a while, and then he got called up national service.
Right.
And he was away for 2 years, and then we got married the year after he come back home. He come home in 59, and we got married in 1960. Where'd we get married?
Yeah.
At the Brent's Church. We got married there. I lived at Priory. No, I didn't live at Priory Place, but we lived in 7 Acre Road, and they wouldn't let you get married at Davington Church because you come under the Brent's parish. We had the reception in the schoolroom.
Oh,
The wedding reception afterwards in the
So you had two girls, just
Yeah.
two girls.
Yeah, just 2 girls. So I had the first one, Dawn, in 1965, and then I had Stephanie in 1968. When they were young,
Yeah.
I couldn't go back to work. There was no one,
No.
parents didn't look after babies, not then.
No.
They had them when they got a bit older, but I used to go fruit picking. They used to come out with us in the prams, yeah. They used to enjoy it. Kids used to, have quite a nice little club going, and everybody used to look after everybody's children. If somebody was up a tree and the child wanted something, we're down here, we look after her or him, as the case may be,
Yeah.
Everybody kept an eye on each other's children, sort of thing. It was nice. They all played together nicely. Yeah. We used to go in the back of a lorry. All the kids used to sit down the front of the lorry, and us mums used to be right at the back. I don't know what the health and safety would say now, because they used to hang over the tail bit, at the back of the lorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you was at school, did you play sports?
Yeah. I used to play football and rounders. Never played basketball. It was mainly football and rounders. And when I was at secondary school, I was in the athletics team. I used to throw the javelin. And never much good at running. But I used to play tennis and used to play badminton.
How did you come to playing football for the metal presses?
I don't know. I was asked. I think people that we knew worked there, and they used to want people for the team, and they used to come and ask if you want to play football, and I did. I used to enjoy playing football.
Yeah. What position did you play?
Right wing, I was. Yeah, I used to play netball.
You was right wing, but you just told me you didn't like running.
Well, yeah, I know, but I wouldn't have been able to run a race, not like the runners do, or not that sort of running, but run up and down the football pitch. Yeah.
And we go back to the running again. You didn't like running. You played the goal running. You was a
Yeah,
goal runner.
yeah. But, you know, it was just something. And, you know, I can't remember what the goal running was all about, really. And I used to think,
What, the rules?
yeah, what's goal running? But that was the Metal Crescents again.
This is the first time that I've heard that there's ladies football
Yeah,
and a
Yeah.
goal running team.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, back then.
but as I say, the football was nearly always carnival afternoons.
Yeah.
Yeah, they used to have a football match.
What do you remember of the carnivals?
Oh, they used to be good. I remember the torches.
Yeah.
You know, like I did carry them one year, and we got 2 and 6pence for carrying them.
Yeah.
That was a lot of money then. But they used to be good, them carnivals. The floats were really, you know, all the firms used to have a float. Really took pride in them. Pollocks used to put one in, and Doyle's one in, Rigdon's, Shepherd Neames, Whiting and Hines, all the big firms that were in the town used to put these floats in, and they really were nice floats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there other things
To-
you had the carnival?
For-
Was there anything else that you look
I
forward
can't
to?
ever remember I can't ever remember a fair or anything.
No other events?
No. I can only ever remember watching the carnival floats.
Yeah.
That was all. And as I say, as you got older, I did carry a torch one year.
What about, I've seen on your Facebook that, well, not on your Facebook, remember
Yeah.
it's a Faversham, sorry, about Sea Salter.
Oh,
You
yes.
used to go
Yeah.
down there.
Oh, it was always down there. We used to cycle down there.
Oh, you did? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
What about the family? Did you all go as a family?
Not
Yeah.
with remember going down there with my brother,
Yeah.
my elder brother, but not with Mum and Dad's. When Dad used to take us out, they used to have holidays. They used to have rail tickets, didn't they? Runabout or something.
Yeah.
And we used to have one of them for the week. He used to get. We used to nearly always go to Sheerness.
Oh, right.
I remember going over Sheerness quite
Yeah.
a bit, but because that was on the train. But never down to Sea Salter, they never took us, but we used to go down there on the bike. We used to go across the marshes. We used to go down Standard Quay and over the bridge and cycle round the seawall
Yeah.
to where the houses are now, then where the farm, then Sandbanks. And from the farm, we used to cycle across the field to Castle Croot and go down there. I know.
Yeah.
Remember, I went down there with my brother once, and we camped for a couple of nights, and we used to cycle back every morning for food. But we used to go across there, and I remember them taking down Nagden Bump when they built the sea wall. That was after '53. And they built the sea wall at Sea Salter,
Yeah.
and that they took down the big Nagden Bump. I remember them doing all that.
Now, you've always lived in this area,
Yes.
so you must remember around Stevens Close and the area, what was there before?
Remember all this? It all belonged to Daventton Manor. There used to be a big house
Okay.
up here. There used to be, along our garden here, there was a red brick wall, like across the road, and it was just a track, and across the road was just a fence and fields. That's that photograph I've got. As I say, and the road was a lot narrower, and there were trees. They met. That's why it's called Dark Hill. They all met out at the top.
Oh, right.
When they built the houses, they cut it all the way to make the road that much wider. It's like Bisingwood Road. That was very narrow, more like a lane more than a road.
Wasn't there nothing out the wreck?
I can't remember when I was young, because as I said, I never ever went down there when, I can't remember ever going down there before I went to secondary school.
No.
No.
And
You know.
what about when you was at secondary school?
Well, we used to go out there to play,
Yeah.
and they used to have Whit Sunday sports. I remember that. And then later on in years, when I was older, 15, 16, the Americans used to come Whit Sunday and have a barbecue, and the fairs. Remember the fairs at the wreck?
Yeah.
We always had them.
So you said
Yeah.
about barbecues, was that well attended or?
Yeah, there used to be a lot of people out there. Yeah, yeah.
So it was a
remember
big
them.
occasion.
Yeah, well, yeah. And the Americans as well. Everybody,
Yeah.
was out there. They used to do the cooking. I remember the big trenches they used to dig. Can't remember going into the town a lot, not when I was younger, primary school age, I can't remember. I know we used to cycle Wednesdays, some mornings, either cycle or walk, down to West Street from Priory Place. There used to be Young's down there, the baker. We used to go down there to get bread first thing in the morning. And I remember the co-op down there as well. There was always a co-op in West Street, at this end of West Street. The shop, it's still there, isn't it? It's a house, but the front of it is still the same as a big shop.
So you got married in 1960.
Yes.
David. Was he from Faversham?
Yeah, lived in Minster Road. So he was Faversham born and bred.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So you had the two girls. How many grandchildren?
4 boys. Both girls had 2 boys each, but haven't got any great-grandchildren. None of them are married.
And David worked down Gillett as well.
Yeah.
Was he always down there for...
No, he was down there for a while. Then I said he got called up for national service,
Yeah.
which he went in when he was 18.
Right, so when David finished national service,
Yeah.
so what did he come back and do?
He came back to Gillett's for a little while, driving a lorry. He learnt the trade of bricklaying and everything else, and then from there on, he found his vocation later on.
How long has he been past?
2 years. 2 years in January. He had a cardiac arrest at home. He wasn't well for about 2 or 3 years, so.
When you say on the Facebook thing,
Yeah,
it is a great way of communicating or talking to people.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to go out. I
and,
suppose.
no, and
But-
you can see what everybody's been up to without having to say anything, can't you? Sometimes I could give my opinion, but I don't.
Yeah.
But it's nice just to look up different things on the internet.
I noticed that on Memories of Faversham, you're seeing other people's memories.
Yes,
And you're
Yeah,
saying, oh yeah, I
I
remember
remark on
that,
that,
or
yeah,
I
yes.
was there.
yeah,
And it must be fascinating to you. You've lived all that, what people are saying.
Yes,
Oh,
yeah.
was Faversham like that?
yeah,
I do find this, talking to people about Faversham, is if you've lived in one part of the town, and I was the same, I grew up over Ostrich,
yes.
you didn't know much about another part of the
No,
town
no.
until you
No.
get older.
No, but as I say, you lived in your own little community. You had all your own friends sort of lived where you lived, all lived in the rows of houses where we were.
Yeah.
What
about, because you and most people have seen such a change in the town, even up to, I don't know, say the 80s, there was a big change, wasn't there?
Oh yes, yeah. When the shops, like Preston Street, when Barbers and that all went, and the Dolphin, and the cinema all went, and that they were big changes in the town. And then when they started building, when they built the estates, like North Preston, that was a big change. And the shops, a lot of shops have gone in the town. Round, like there used to be Abbott's Court, round the marketplace, when what used to be Holmes's, the grocers, and then there's what they call Abbott's Court. There used to be a cafe and that was very posh.
Abbott's Court.
Yeah, there's Holmes's on the corner, and then you come round the side of the market near the pump. Well, those where the estate agents and that is there.
Yeah.
That was Abbott's Court.
Oh.
It's called Abbott's Court, and that was like a posh. It all belonged to Pollocks. It did. It was a posh cafe.
Yeah.
And that where the yarn shop is with the wall and all that. That was a chemist. Childs all went, didn't it? And remember, we used to go in there and watch them take the money. They used to put the money in a container, and when you took it and then put it up on this framework and pull the handle, and it used to whiz around the shop to the cashier's desk. That was quite fascinating to watch. That.
You mentioned the Dolphin. Did
Yeah.
you ever go in there?
Yeah, we used to go in. We used to do our courting in the Dolphin when we used to have a drink and that in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a nice pub. Barbers, the toy shop next door. That was still there when the girls were young because I used to take them in there. Well, Dawn, the eldest one, anyhow. Then you had the photography shop where you used to take photographs at the back and upstairs, and the front was all toys because that used to be fine fare. They knocked them down to build a supermarket,
Yeah.
didn't they? Criminal that was.
Can you remember North Lane before it was widened?
Yeah, that's when the old house was there. That was, I tell you, was a like a junk shop, like Jones's.
Oh.
I can remember that being there.
Oh, and that was the one that was knocked down?
Yeah, they were all knocked down.
Right.
And the Greyhound was knocked down, and all the houses up on the bank before the church hall, they were all knocked down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's, I got mixed up where you was on the corner. I was one corner too far.
No, it was opposite. It was the corner where used to be years and years ago. It was a tyre place, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Before Shepherd Neames took it over.
That's it, yeah.
That corner. That's where there used to be this old wooden building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also they widened it up near the White Horse as well.
Yes, because that used to be able to sit down, Bertie. You used to be able to there was two-way traffic up West Street and down through there because the road never went all the way through into South Road. Not then.
No.
Because the road was joined. There was traffic from Tanner Street, drive right through up West Street.
Oh, and was it connected so you couldn't get from South Road into...
You could, but there was no... It was a road,
Yeah.
You got North Lane, but it was a continuous road that you drove over up into West Street.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so it was all two-way traffic.
Yeah.
All the way down through there. Because the shops were in the corner. There used to be Quinnell's that sold wallpaper and stuff like that up then South Road before you go up the road to get to the car park. There was a big shop. There were some other shops there. I think there was a street shop. But I know the road. It was a through road.
Yeah.
It wasn't like it is at all now. Yeah.
Oh.
But the actual street, actual West Street, other than shops changing hands and different things, that hasn't changed a lot at all. There was a shoe shop, and of course there was the gasworks. There was Agregano's. There was the big gasometers in there. Where they got Morrison's now, the gasometers were in there, but there was an office in the front that was, I don't know if it was Agregano's or who it was. There used to be Messengers, that was a cafe, and Johnson's the grocers.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, and that was where the alley is that goes through the back to the back of Shepherd Neames, isn't there?
Yeah.
Between Johnson's and the shop. And the other shop on the other corner was Beanie's, the shoe shop. And I think next to Johnson's was Gould's that used to sell hardware stuff, yeah. And they used to go right back, that wooden floor.
What was the Guildhall like when you was young then? Was that open for anything or it just...
No, I can't never remember it being open. It used to be council offices. That's the last time I remember. And they used to have a court in there as well. When we were younger, they used to have like a police court in the Guildhall.
Yes.
Before the magistrates in there.
Yeah. That's right, yeah.
Picture house. I remember going to the pictures quite a lot Saturday mornings.
Was that the only picture house you went to?
Yeah, and the Regal up Press Street where it's now M&Co's. Near M&Co's.
Yeah.
Actually, M&Co's is not. The picture house was this way, further on. That gap between M&Co's and the other one used to go up in there to the picture house.
Yeah.
It was called the Regal or the Argosy when we used to go.
And was they the only two cinemas?
Only two cinemas that I know in the town.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And lastly, when you was right wing for the metal pressings, did you ever score a goal?
I think I did once. and right from the wing.